Hi, my name is Mark, and welcome to this week's edition of My First Concert, where today I am going to step completely out of my comfort zone. If you've listened to any of these podcasts in the past, it has generally been focused around country in most instances, just because that's what I am most familiar with. I mean, I've talked with some producers. I've talked with some educators who have nothing to do with country music. I've talked with people that run venues in our area that bring in lots of shows that aren't just country. But that's my wheelhouse. That's what I know most about, probably the musical genre I listen to the most, although I like absolutely everything. But I always believe that you should step out of your comfort zone and try new things, especially when it comes to music. Listen to it all, because you're going to find some stuff that will surprise you. And that's exactly what happened the first time I heard the music and saw these guys play live. So I would like to introduce you to three of the most unique, genuine dudes that you will ever come across. And at the end of this episode, I am going to play their brand new single for you, so you get a feel for exactly what these guys are about. It's the Dead Marthas. I'm a little intimidated by you guys, frankly, okay? Because I've never...
You should be.
I have yet to talk with anybody that plays the kind of music that you guys play, all right?
Okay.
Most of it has been more mainstream. I've talked with a lot of songwriters. I've talked with more in line of the country genre, which is kind of what my background is in anyway, but I love everything. I love all kinds of music. It doesn't matter. So joining me right now is Trevor Stein, Scott Miller, Russ Haddon of the Dead Marthas here in Rapid City. Now, just let's get this out of the way, because even though it's interesting, it's going to be the most whatever part of the conversation. The name, okay? You must get asked this constantly, don't you? Where it comes from.
Definitely.
We can't talk about it.
You can't talk about it.
I like the fan theories that we get.
Okay,
get all
give me some
kinds
examples of what they would be.
One fan theory is that Superman... Was it Superman and Batman's mom were both named Martha, and they both died in some way? And somebody's like, that's what it is,
It's
right?
cooler.
And I was like,
is
that's
cool.
a way better story than how we got to there.
Yeah.
I wish it was that.
Yeah.
Well,
and then
that's-
there's the other one. There's the Handmaid's Tales or whatever. Handmaid's
yeah.
Tales.
Right.
Handmaid's
And
Tale.
I've never seen it, but everybody's like, the Marthas, right?
Actually,
from the
if
Handmaid's
you
Tales.
Google it, that comes up. It's like
Yeah.
our stuff and then a bunch of Handmaid's Tales.
And that's all right with me. It looks sexy.
I guess if you'd consider that sexy,
Yeah.
sure. Now,
Russ has definitely never seen that.
I've never seen the movie.
now this got super awkward. This whole thing.
Went real weird real quick.
We're
Sorry.
not 2 minutes in, and here we go.
There it is.
So where did it come from originally? Then, I mean, what's the reason behind it?
It came from, believe it or not, I had like a folk band that I was starting called Mother Martha, Father Fred. And I'd put it together, and up at Mount Moriah, there's all the gravestones, and there was one that was like Mother Martha and then Father something, and they were like a husband-wife grave pair. And I was like, that's a really cool band name, but it was like Mother Martha, Father Samuel or something.
That
I was
didn't
like, that,
flow.
I was like, that doesn't work, but everything but that. And so I had that, and then
Poor
Russ,
Yeah.
he got left out.
Your name sucks.
Darn it. Poor Samuel.
And then Russ had a band name idea that he was
Yeah.
trying to promote called
Dead Spacemen.
Yeah, Dead Spacemen.
So great.
And so
It's going to be the best band in the whole entire world.
What happened to it then,
I
Russ?
just got-
What happened?
I got distracted.
Easily distracted.
Yeah.
Well, let me get background on you guys. Trevor, where are you? Are you from here? Are you from around this area? Are all of you guys from here? Well, let's just start with you, Trevor. Where are you from?
Not at all. Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in Northwest Arkansas, and then I went to school in Memphis, Tennessee,
And
Yeah.
and now I'm here.
okay, I want to know how you got from Memphis to Rapid City, South Dakota.
I was going to school for geology, and
Really?
I did a field camp up here, which is part of any geology degree. You spend like a month in somewhere else, and you make a bunch of maps and do a bunch of projects. And I met my wife here,
on Tinder.
Way to
While I was
clarify
still
that. Thank you for clarifying that.
Weird that you had to add that, but sure.
It's a fun little piece of the story. So I went back to Memphis, and then when I graduated, I said, I'm going to come up here. And
Fall in love.
that's what I did.
So does
Now I'm happily married for 5 years.
does geology still interest you? Is it still something you think maybe?
It's interesting, but no, I'm not doing a single thing with it.
You have a sweet hammer. to
You do,
show
you
for
have
the
a gold
master's
hammer.
degree.
Oh, you've got a geology hammer?
I did get a hammer, yeah.
There's a great band name, right? Geology Hammer.
That is a good name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, what's your story then?
Yeah, I grew up here. My dad played in a band called Aaron Barron in the 80s and toured the Midwest.
Really?
Yeah, he got inducted into the South Dakota Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2 years ago, 2019, something like that.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I've been surrounded by music my whole life, and it was a weird thing of like growing up. I really didn't want to like work in the studio or do any of that stuff because I was like, no, that's all I do all day. Like it's always all around.
Right.
And so, but then I started playing in like church bands and stuff when I was younger. Stepped up to that, playing in punk bands in the local scene, and basically played right up until I got married in 2010 or 2011. Got married then, had a son a couple years later, and just kind of ran out of like time for everything else.
Right.
So Dead Martha's was like the next thing. Like 10 years later, I was getting back into the saddle. Like I'd always played music and I'd had stuff, but I hadn't played on stage or done anything past that for like 10 years.
Oh wow.
So-
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, to go back to the Dead Martha's name, it's like we were sitting in a room trying to help each other out with these songs that we had. And he was actually, well, why don't we just do this together? So we're like, well, whose name should we take? And then we're just like, well, let's just combine them. And there
That's
it
how
was.
it came about.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
It's the perfect. It is the perfect name for the music you guys play, which I want to get to here in a little bit. But Russ, then what's your whole backstory in this?
Well, I grew up in a small town of 33 people called Beulah, Wyoming, and it's a little nook of the world where everybody does whatever they want, and there's no laws. It's the West,
Home of the
baby.
Testicle Festival.
Home of the Testicle Festival.
Oh, of course.
And we tried to get into the Guinness World Book of Records with the smallest town with the biggest parade.
How?
But we didn't do it because we were just too small.
Well,
But there was a plane involved.
There you go.
And
so
I
at
lit a
that
fire truck on fire, but that's a totally different story.
Metric.
at that committee meeting in Beulah.
Yeah.
When you guys were sitting there thinking, we're a town of 33 people and we're going to have the
Right.
Guinness Book of World's Record for the largest parade, didn't anybody in the meeting look up and say, there's only 33 fucking people here?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
can
why
only
we
go
called
so far.
we called all our friends, Spearfish, Gillette, all the people, man.
And they were like,
Everybody's
we're not
been
going
to
to come
Beulah.
over and help you. Why would
Yeah.
we do that?
Surrounding metro area.
In the surrounding metro area of all the farming community.
So,
And
do you? I'll go back down here too. Well, you kind of told me, little Scott, that you actually had a musical background. Your family was pretty musical.
Yeah.
Trevor, did you have that too? Did you have people in your family that were like that? That
Yeah.
you could pull from?
I did. My mom was very musical. She wrote songs and played the piano my whole life. And I was pretty musical all throughout school.
Sure.
Played in a lot of bands in college and grad school, and then came here and got hooked up. I played for churches, honestly, for a long time. And then when I got here, played in some local church stuff, and then kind of jammed with Scotty a little bit here and there. And then my first kind of hookup into the kind of scene, I guess, was playing for Brandon Jones for
Oh, really? Okay.
about a year and a half, maybe.
Well, that's quite a switch from that music to what you guys do now. Obviously.
Sure was. Yeah.
Do
It was
you-
a lot of fun. I had the greatest times with those guys.
Well, I guess we'll I mean, Russ, your background too. You had some music in your family as well.
Yeah, my mom and dad are always musical, and they always showed me a bunch of really good music. So it was just kind of like they never said. Well, actually, they bought the first guitar, and then they just kept let me do bad decisions and have bands and
That's
stuff
what
like
makes
that.
the best
So,
musicians. Are the
there you
ones that
go.
make
Yeah.
the bad decisions.
Yeah, and they were always super supportive of whatever phase it was. If it was eyeliner and straightened hair, or if it was country weird, no socks, you do what you want.
Can you bring in some of those pictures though? Yeah, ones? Really?
lots
I
of
would like to see that.
So okay, so you guys, Trevor, you mentioned you played with Brandon, and Brandon's obviously a relatively traditional / kind of neo country.
Yeah.
He kind of plays a little bit in between there.
Yeah.
And to people that might not be familiar with who you guys are, because you've only been together for how long now?
2.5
years.
Okay. Playing a little. Oh my God! See, I just got
It's
done.
bigger than mine.
Just got done interviewing Brian. Thought he would work his way in here somewhere. But so is this? How would you describe the type of music that you guys play? Do you got or do you even give a shit about labels when it comes to this kind of music?
It's hard, yeah, because like we get called a lot of things outwardly. Like people are like, "Oh, well, you're like a punk band," or "You're a post. You're now leaning post-hardcore."
Post something.
Yeah, it's always like
post.
post something. It's post-hardcore, post, or early stuff was like pop punk. It has all these different things. I don't know. We just always called ourselves like a rock and roll band.
Yeah.
we were just there to,
Yeah.
I like that.
play loud and
Get angry
cause a
and
little
point out people.
mayhem, and then bum people out and
Bum
get off
people out,
stage.
yeah.
Like,
I'm
Maybe have
so
people
bad
leave.
at answering that question. It's like, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
loud and hard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do what we
It
want,
is.
I guess.
Well, and sometimes I
Yeah.
think labels are pretty stupid.
It's weird,
I mean, I know that there are certain genres that everybody's going to try to pigeonhole you into. So what, like with Scott? Well, your music. Did you grow up with a lot of '80s stuff then because of your dad being in that band? I mean, did you get?
I mean, so I hit the misfortune of being born right. I was born in '89, and so
Oh, yeah.
my parents hit the like church revival movement, and they were like, we must now repent for our rock and roll sins. So I grew up with like a whole lot of like bland vanilla kind of Christian rock music. Found some really cool things in it, like
Give me one example.
Reliant
Don't
K.
diss the
I love
Newsboys.
Oh,
Reliant
sure.
K.
Okay.
Newsboys slapped a little. They had some stuff. I guiltily was a huge Creed fan for a while.
Who isn't?
Well,
Still am.
Still am.
But
my arms are wide open right now.
Yes, they are.
But yeah, it's I didn't have a whole lot of that till a little bit later. I actually got introduced to most of those bands through one of my friends in like middle school.
Sure.
He was like, "Oh, have you ever heard of, do you listen to Journey?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Do you listen to, what about this one, the Eagles?" And he would pull out of these bands. And I was like, "Man, I'm 13. Like, can we go play Xbox again? Like, I don't care about this right now." But yeah, I think the majority of music was that. And so I was like, I remember finding somebody giving me a Blink-182 CD when I was like I would have been like 12. And I would like stuck it in, and I was like, "Oh man, my parents can't hear this." Turn it on, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" I was so like, "Oh
The
geez,
one with
that's
the nurse on the.
Yeah.
What's that
no,
one?
it was Dude Ranch.
Oh,
It was
Dude
Dude
Ranch.
Ranch, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like you can get fast and you can say that." I'm like,
You can
that's
say that?
insane. So I was definitely a late bloomer in that
There was a
respect.
BPM limit. For,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you can play that fast. Wow.
I just never heard it, and everything was like worship music and that kind of stuff. So I was always like, "Oh, okay."
So, Trevor, your guitar, correct? Drums. I'm sorry. God dang it. I knew I was going to screw that up. I had a 50-50 chance. I know what Russ plays. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go ahead
play
and grab
piano.
this. You play, yes, you're up there on the
Honky tonk.
up there on the saxophone.
That's right.
Sexy saxophone
Drums,
player.
guitar, sax.
So, were drums your first, like your first love? Sort
They
of a deal?
were.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was kind of random. I mean, I could be wrong on this. I don't have a memory of asking for a drum set, but I know that I got one for Christmas one year when I was like 9.
Did you get it from like a family friend or relative that didn't like your parents? Is that where
No,
that
it was actually from my mom and dad, and we had, it was there in the basement one Christmas, and they were like, this is your gift now. And,
Here you are.
Bang on some of these.
and I, turned on Backstreet's Back and played along.
Yes.
With it. And that was my first
Oh,
time.
I knew I
am-
liked you.
And
I knew we had that in common. I could just tell.
because they're better than NSYNC.
Yes,
NSYNC can suck
thank
it,
you.
but-
Nobody else agrees with anybody else.
Hold on.
So, and that's where it started, and that's pretty much all I played. I mean, I got a few years later got a bass and a guitar and kind of dabbled, and then when I was in college, I couldn't have my drum set, so I played a little guitar here and there, but that's about it.
Be honest though, because you were in a vocal choir that traveled the world. That's just something that you're missing and leaving out.
What?
Well,
Dude, he's
Are
sang
you
everywhere.
kidding?
He's sang at the White House.
Yeah.
I love bringing that up because he hates it.
And at the Vatican.
I
At
tell
the
you,
foot of
but
Jesus.
what is more punk than that? Okay, I mean, that's
Than
a
vocal
bad,
choir?
Yes, exactly. That's a badass story right there.
I
Yep.
guess. No, yeah, I was in college. I sang in a choir. We were America's Singing Ambassadors.
Dude, we found this out on the
awesome.
way to
You
Utah
mean you haven't?
in the
Yeah.
van. He's like,
By the way,
You mean you haven't heard of us? We were America's Singing
Top 40.
Ambassadors.
I said that I
Top
wanted
40.
to go see. I want to go see the big Jesus statue in Rio before I die, and he nonchalantly just goes, "Oh yeah, I sang there with the choir." In high school. And I was like, "Hold on, what?
We
You
sang-
did what?"
The van gets pulled over, screeching tires.
It was a choir that did like every other summer. They did international tours. And this was a little college in Shreveport, Louisiana, called Centenary College, and it's a Centenary College choir. And we sang. So in my 4 years, I had 2 international trips. We did Rio and so Brazil and Argentina, and then Italy. So we did. It was the first Protestant choir to sing mass at the Vatican.
See, and he just leaves that shit out like it's no big deal.
Mic drop. See you later.
And then
Trevor just walks out of the interview.
His
now,
beard
I'm
just
done.
grows a
it
foot
was
longer.
it was really just those 2 big trips, and then we did an alum of the choir went on to be this composer, and he was debuting a piece of his in New York, and so we went to that and did a whole thing at Carnegie Hall, which was really cool.
Good
It was
Lord.
hosted by Clay Aiken.
Yeah, all right. That's when you know
See,
it's
new information. I had no idea.
That's and then you're sitting over there going, and then you mentioned earlier about, grad school. You're the smartest guy I've ever talked to in one of these things so far, too.
Yeah, he's insane.
Jeez, that's amazing. I'm just listening to all of your backgrounds and the stuff you've listened to and the stuff you've grown up with and your family history. I'm fascinated by what you guys are now choosing to play.
Yeah.
You know,
Garbage.
No,
It's back alley trash glam.
because I saw for the first time at the rally, you guys got to get up on stage at the tent there in the Loud American, and I was very curious because I thought, okay, I know Russ, you said this is like one of the biggest kind of deals we played, sort of a thing.
Yeah, we
Right.
played.
And so I thought, okay, I want to just watch the crowd because what are usually in those crowds are
Yeah.
obviously the bikers, but you've got the cowboys that are in there, and then you've got some locals that are hanging out in there, and so everybody knows what to expect because it's it's great bands. It's Judd Hoos,
Yeah.
it's the Eskimo Brothers, it's
Yeah, a whole bunch of 'em.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
Brian Lowry,
exactly.
Brandon Jones,
So it's eclectic. It totally
Yeah.
is, and it's really nothing like what you guys play. So I thought, all right, this is going to be cool because I want to see the crowd's reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you guys get up there, you kick into the first song, and I was kind of taken aback by it too. I'm like, Jesus, this is it's loud, but it all sounds right. Okay, I mean, it all sounds exactly like I was kind of expecting it to sound. And so I turn around and I look at the crowd, and I see a couple people. Their reactions kind of like, oh Jesus, whatever.
Yeah.
But by the time you
These
guys
guys. Hooligans.
the third or fourth song, turning around then and watching some people that I'd watched come in off the sidewalk and kind of sit down and, kind of with that expression on their face like, well, this is different.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
in a bad way. None of them had that look on their face like, I don't want to see this. And then more people started filtering in and sitting down. And I'm like, you know what? This is kind of, to me, what the rally is missing is the stuff that you guys do. Do you guys feel that when you play? Do you guys go to certain places and play, and people aren't quite sure what to expect by the time they're done? You're
Every
like,
single
We were
show
just
play.
talking about. So we had a show
Every
this
time.
weekend. We were in
Yeah.
Greeley, Colorado, and it was a really cool bill. All the bands we were playing with were very
punk.
Pop punk. I mean, it was the same genre,
Yeah.
and so we fit with that, but we were a little heavier, grittier.
Yeah.
We would never say that we were pop punk. I don't think we listen to a lot
No,
of that,
I
and we
wouldn't
get
even think you
influence from
guys
it.
would
but,
be.
but anyway, like,
past, for sure.
but we were saying that the reactions, to the other bands were, they were great. They were kind of what you expected. They were pop punk bands, and then ours was it was a subtle difference, but it was, kind of surprised. They were
Right.
like, okay, like that was cool. That was
Yeah.
something that we hadn't expected or seen before.
We got a couple claps, I think.
Yeah,
we got
I
a
mean,
couple
we
golf
didn't-
claps in there.
But that's what we liked that about it.
Yeah.
We liked that it
Yeah.
wasn't what people expected.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it was funny because like one of the older guys that played in the other bands, he was like, "You guys remind me of this '90s grunge band called Failure." And we listened to it later that night, and we're
Yeah,
like,
he nailed it.
"Oh
It
my
sounded
gosh, the
exactly
one
like the
person
new
that could
record,
actually
yeah.
put like nail us down." And it was like this crazy, like hard but kind of sludgy and sad and angry and like ruthless sound. And we're like, "Who are these guys? We've never heard of these guys." So it was cool.
Well, what I like about it too, which kind of surprised me, and Russ, this is, kind of based off stuff that you went through here a year or two ago,
Yeah.
relationship wise. But I think a lot of people.
Let's get into that. Let's talk about it.
I hit them all.
Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. All right, let's make this raw right now, okay?
Yes.
But that surprised me about this kind of music is that it's not just loud, but there is a message to it. There is something people can listen to, and once you cut through and get to the lyrics, you're like, holy shit, I'm going through that right now. That's a
Right.
thing that's happening. And I don't think people that may not be familiar with your music understand that. It's not just loud in your face. I mean, it's
Yeah,
still
for sure.
melodic.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but there's you guys are writing some good stuff too.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I think where all of our influences come from are from those emotional bands and emo bands, but like also like
let's not
actually
say
like
that, though.
writing emotional songs that mean something, that have a message, that help the people that are in their class or whatever you want
Right.
to say. And it's been really fun because lately we've been diving into the things that we are writing together, and it's all a little bit darker. It's all a little bit
Like
heavier.
the new record's way less happy.
Yeah, it's going to be very
It's
interesting.
a rain cloud of a record.
So okay, so
yeah.
why? Why is it darker? Why?
I mean, we're old and angry. Like, I'm a bitter.
I'm in the
ass
happiest part of my
dude.
life.
Right.
I
Trevor
just
is doing good.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the choir grad student over here. What does he have to be sad about? At
I
this
just
point?
like to get wild on weekends. I don't really care
Yeah.
about what they're
Trevor
singing
likes
about.
hitting really hard. No, I don't know. It's.
yeah.
I think like we had a very distinct line that I kind of forcibly drew, and I was like, we are, we're all in our 30s. We have a lot of stuff to say that I not that we didn't say in the first records, but like the first record was kind of like, oh, well, this is cute. Like, oh, there was a girlfriend in high school. There's this thing. Oh, we like, road tripping. We like this kind of stuff.
Right.
And then it got to that point where I was like, that's fun. And that needed, like, those songs needed to come out because they were going to sit there
Right.
no matter what.
Yeah.
But, like, I had a best friend die a year ago and in a week.
Right.
Right.
And we have a lot of issues that I was like, we have a platform, we can actually do something with it and still get loud and still get heavy and still
Yeah.
have fun. But we're not getting younger.
Right.
Things aren't getting better. Like, it's not like I'm
Well, yeah.
I'm progressively like much happier now than I was when I was 17.
My
and things were
401k is growing nicely.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, yeah, that.
Well, yeah, and
Mine's doing well.
it's also it's also that we're not trying to not be 30. There's
Yeah,
a
we
lot
just
of
wanna
bands
play
out
how
there
we
that are
like-
playing like, oh man, it's kind of like when the Beach Boys turn 50
That's a
and they're
good
singing
point.
about 16-year-old girls still.
Right.
It's like, wow, this is weird.
Yeah, or like-
and so we want to be honest about our experiences, and that's the only time that like our actual music means something to us and actually turns out the way that we want, is if it's
Yeah.
honest in the way that we want to say it.
Yeah, because
Right
I
on.
remember seeing a video of Blink 182 with what's his name from Alkaline Trio, and I was like, oh no, like
Here we
this
go.
is not
Right.
a look, because you guys are all,
Yeah.
45, 50, and I can't take like. What is it? Say it ain't so.
Right, that-
I can't take it seriously anymore.
Right.
Right.
I would rather hear what they like. How does it feel? Mark Hoppus, you just had cancer. What is actually going on?
Right,
yeah,
Those
exactly.
I just liked the idea of like being realistic to where we are now and how we actually feel, instead of trying to project or trying to be like, well, people would like this.
I
Right.
think that is extremely interesting, because you're right. There's a lot of bands that never want to grow up.
Right.
Yeah.
They capture a sound, or they capture moments, and they think that that's all it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
to come out and kind of be honest with yourself in that sense, that's heavy. Really.
yeah.
I mean,
Right, yeah.
it is.
Well, and the other thing too is it's kind of like therapy for us. We started meeting on Thursday nights because we were trying to fill a void of not playing music and not having that connection to where we all came from back as kids, and like when and so the fact that we can actually just get that out is very therapeutic for us, and probably a good thing for a lot of other people.
Just for full disclosure, I work every day with Russ, and now I'm starting to. I'm
concerned.
thankful. I'm very thankful that you guys have
Yes.
these weekly get-togethers.
Yes, they're important.
the band
Boy,
breaks up.
boy, are
yeah.
they! Put metal detectors out front right now, because now I'm freaked out.
Yeah.
So all of you guys got you very heavily. Your backgrounds are amazing when it comes to music and the different places that you draw from. But the whole point of this podcast is,
Sure.
Whenever you're talking with people from any background, whether it's educators or whether it's roadies or people that own venues, or run venues, they'll always point to a moment in their life where they were standing there and it dawned on them that, oh my God, I want to do this thing. This
Yeah.
is my passion. So Trevor, your background is I just want to talk with you for about another 20 minutes. Not that Scott
let's
and
go.
Russ aren't interesting.
Let's
No,
do
trust
no,
me,
this is
we'll
good
find out
because
a bunch of stuff we
I'm
don't know
learning
either.
about Trevor too, so it's great.
Yeah, both of you guys. Did you know? Should I just ask some really uncomfortable
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
But Trevor, can you pinpoint that moment, or were you at a show, or was there something that, because being wanting to be a geologist or doing these what moment happened for you where you're like, no, I want to be with these two guys making this kind of music. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, it was Amy Grant's Christmas tour, Branson, Missouri, 1998,
1998.
the Remington Theater.
That's a good one.
You went to that too. I know you
I
did. That's not even bullshit. He went to that.
Oh my God.
So,
Amy Grant Christmas.
Well, and she was so hot back in the 90s.
she was
too.
great.
Oh
She's
my
still-
God.
still
and
gorgeous.
she's still gorgeous. She's still, and she can still sing like.
just a real
man.
treasure.
No
yeah.
kidding. She
Amy
is.
Grant.
Thanks, Amy.
No, so yeah, I was thinking about this because there were there were events like that like your parents take you to when you're a kid, and I love those memories. But then there's like the first show that you went to that was like your band that you like that you go to. That one for me, there was a really specific one. It was probably like 6th or 7th grade, and it was me and my buddy Jared who. I was living in Arkansas at the time, and the closest places for shows were like Fayetteville or Springfield, Missouri. There's one in Springfield, and it was Anne Boleyn, Seosin, who were kind of
Nice. Yeah.
I don't know. They weren't Christian bands, but they were.
Right, they're in
There was
between,
this
they're
label
hybrids.
called Tooth and Nail that was kind of that way, like.
It's the Christian-esque bands
It's
that like
like
your
the-
parents would let you listen to.
Yeah.
They're like,
I can
this
get away
is
with
pretty
this.
heavy, and you're like, yeah, no,
It
but
was
it's on
weird.
it's on Tooth and Nail, and they're like, oh, okay.
Well, it was weird because if you asked Tooth and Nail, they were like, "Oh, we're not a Christian label," but anyway, there's a whole thing about that.
yeah.
But it was a great show. It was Amberlin, Seosin, and this was like in Anthony Green days.
Yeah,
So
that's
it was,
a crazy show. Like I can't even imagine
Acceptance.
that.
There's another band called Acceptance and Code 7. So anyway, the funny story here was I had never been to like a show like this in my life. We were from like a small town outside, not even in Fayetteville proper, outside, so kind of small town Arkansas. And this was like before, like now you could look up the venue on the internet and like see what it looks like, do Street View, 360 view. This was before that, so it was like you just get your tickets or buy them at the door and just go.
Yeah.
And so the place was called the Outland Ballroom. So I had planned this with my buddy Jared. His dad was going to take us, and my mom was really hesitant about it. Or not, I don't know if she was really hesitant, but I just distinctly remember being like, Mom, it's okay, it's a ballroom. Like, it's this big...
It's a ballroom.
It's called...
Yeah, Mom. Nothing bad ever happens in a
It's called
ballroom.
the Outland Ballroom. It can't be weird.
It's not going to be bad.
It's got to be a big venue, right? And so, it was fine. So I went. My buddy's dad drove us there because we couldn't drive. We get up to this place. It's downtown Springfield, Missouri. Sketchy as balls. Like, it's a weird... Springfield is not the nicest place in the world. And it's the door, and there's a line out the door, and then it's just a staircase straight up. So it's above... it's the second story of this downtown building, and it's just the tiniest bar in the world. And we get there, and, I'd never been in a bar before. I'd never been in this environment before. And then I remember my dad's, or my buddy's dad leaning over to us and be like, "Do not tell your mother where we are." And it was just like, that feeling was like, this is cool. I'm not supposed to be here. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then it turned out, it was like one of the best shows I've ever seen. These are like iconic bands on this label.
God,
yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
imagine
That kind of
seeing
blew
those
up at the
bands.
time.
Yeah.
I mean, early 2000s.
Right in their
Amberlin was
prime, too.
gigantic.
Right.
Oh, man.
And so that, I definitely remember, that was a big part of it. I was like, I want to play these grimy little places. This is what I want to do.
And I want to make sure that there are 6th and 7th graders in the crowd.
Well,
This is going to be awesome.
well, so
I need seas of children.
And it goes back to like the vibe of, I feel like Dead Martha's now is like just grimy, in your face. Like, that's the vibe.
Perfect. That's a great story. That really is. Scott, what about you?
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Takes a lot of whiskey.
Yeah, because I had the same thing as him. Like, grew up going like church event things, Christian cons. I remember seeing like the Newsboys and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But the first time I was 8th grade, and like the first show I ever went to was underground, was this band called Two Gallants, and they were amazing. I love them, but I didn't even really see the band. Like, I walked in and I was like 3 feet tall, and there's just a sea of people, and I was like, oh God, there's too many people. And my friend's like, we're just gonna go outside and smoke cigarettes. And I was like, okay, that sounds safer. Went outside with them, and so like I felt like I was like, oh man, I definitely bummed out like my first experience. I need to kind of redo this. And we were walking through the mall, and this
Did you
kid,
smoke a cigarette?
No, I didn't yet. That would come later. But I was walking through the mall, and this kid, like, kind of short. He was a little thicker back then. This kid walks up to me, and he's like, "Hey, you look like you're cool. Come to the show." And I was like, "Okay." And I like looked at it, and it was this weird little like Xerox flyer. I could barely read the print of the bands, and I was like, okay, I can do this. This is the second time around. I can do this one.
I've had my cigarette. I'm calm. I'm good. I'm ready.
And this was a wave, like the first, like Two Gallants is like kind of like folky, maybe a tiny bit heavy, but folk music. And then the band that I went to see, I don't even remember the headliner, but my friend, he played guitar for this band called Heed the Omen. And we like get there, and like I managed to get some of my other buddies to come. I was like, come on, we got to go see this band. And we get there, and we're up front, and they were the opening act, and they start playing. It's just like, like this heavy roar comes out, and I see Sean come whipping around, and whipping his hair, and he's like down like in like the crab stance from like 2003, like hardcore crab stance. And that second I was like, holy shit, if he can do this, I can do this. Like, this is insane. And I just met this guy in the mall like 3 hours ago. And it was this like this moment where it all clicked, and I was like, I do know how to play like I play music and church band and stuff, and I was like, but I can do it here and it'll be fun. Like this will be insane. And so going and seeing that, and it was funny because it wasn't like a big band. It wasn't like this thing that was unattainable. It was the first thing that I saw that I was like, oh, these are people just like me. And then like I went, when I was 17, I went and saw Under Oath, Taking Back Sunday, and Armor for Sleep, and that was like my first like massive show, and that was really cool. And that was like, okay, I want to get to this level. But the thing that really solidified it in my brain was seeing those guys come out and play. It was good, you know, it wasn't like the most amazing like metalcore I had ever heard, but it kind of sent me down that path of like finding people and be like, okay, you guys seen Heed the Omen, right? Like we should play music, not like that because we're not good enough, but we should try to do something similar. And so that was the kind of the thing that got the wheels spinning, because I'd been, you know, I started playing bass when I was like 9, and then drums, and I played everything. Like Dead Martha's is the first band I've ever played guitar in. I never played guitar in anything else. And so that was the other thing that I always wanted to do, is I was like, I really want to get to the point where I can be good enough to play guitar. Because I just felt like the bass and drums were like, they came very naturally to me. So it wasn't, I didn't have to work very hard. And then people would be like, oh, you should play with us. I'm like, okay. And it was like easy for me. But guitar, I tried out one band and it bombed so hard. They were like, yeah, no, you can sing, but you can't play guitar with us. And I was like, all right, that's
And they were like, please
fair.
play guitar.
Oh, that's
So
that's. I mean, these are cool because, you know, it's interesting. Again, when I've gone back, and Russ, I'll get to yours here in a second. You know, everybody I talk to it's always these names, these huge shows, these giant. And to you guys, these were giant shows. They were big names to you.
Exactly.
And I guess, you know, kind of what I'm figuring out through this whole thing is it as long as it's interesting to you, it doesn't matter.
Right.
How big they are.
exactly.
Right.
Well, Russ, then what was yours?
Well, I'm kind of the opposite of them. Let me tell you a story, Houston, about a boy with a dream.
Let's go refill
I'll
our
see you
drinks
guys
here.
later. This is going to be a while.
Strap in.
Well, growing up in Beulah, where there was nothing but nice
33 people remember.
Yeah.
fantastic,
Day one.
wonderful people. You know, you didn't really have the internet then, so you found everything by hand. You know, so when your parents are like showing you all the records and stuff that they used to listen to, that's what you listen to. So I grew up with like, you know, Led Zeppelin and Steely Dan, America, and The Who, and Yes, and you name it. That's what my dad was super into. And then my mom was super into Sheryl Crow and Jewel. And the first concert I ever went to was Semisonic opened up for Sheryl Crow, and she wore these tight silver pants. It was 1998.
Semisonic was so rad.
Oh, I know.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
And closing
band.
time, the drummer plays the keyboard part at the beginning live. I'll never forget that. That and those silver pants. I'll be like, what is that drummer doing? He's playing keys while playing the drums? Excuse me?
And silver pants?
In silver pants, Sheryl Crow? What's happening to me?
There's other things but jeans.
Yeah. And then, but yeah, so that was my first concert I'd like to think, you know, was. But then the one, you know, as a kid growing up, you find music from your friends. And, you know, the first album that I ever listened to that was actually something that kind of blew my mind was International Super Hits by Green Day. And, you know, loud guitars, fast drums, like screaming, that kind of stuff. Like, not screaming per se, but like that kind of yelling, singing stuff. And it was just really, really cool. And then we're sitting in the Walmart parking lot. And my buddy whips out this Jimmy Eat World edited version, you know, the clean version, because Walmart wouldn't give away the real version yet. And we're sitting there, and Bleed American is one of the best albums of that decade. And it's just like, wow, like it blew my mind. And then, you know, from there, you start a band in 5th grade, and you know, mess around and you play with your buddies. And but then fast forward it to 2005, I get to go to the Pepsi Center with my dad, and we go and we watch the American Idiot tour with Green Day.
Oh, yeah.
And who opened up for him? Jimmy Eat World. So I got to see those two bands in one place.
It's all prophetic.
And I know, it's like, oh my gosh, it's meant to be. And, you know, walking out of that place, you know, the show that Jimmy Eat World put on was really good, but then Billy Joe Armstrong, standing up there, basically showing the crowd what to do and having that, control was just insane to me, that somebody could have that much power for one, but also just the sound of the band and how they put on that show. It was just incredible, something that I'll never forget. And I still have like the snapshots from my power shot, from the fucking third floor balcony, with a flash.
You can tell that there's something happening on the thing.
I've got all the heads right in front of me lit up, and then I've got like the stage is bright, you can't see anything. But like walking out of that show, I literally remember being like, oh man, okay, if I could do that, that'd be awesome. And that was it. I was from there on, one of the first kids to wear girls' jeans and eyeliner to school and straighten my hair and like just be Billy Joe Armstrong for a couple of years, and then just being that weirdo in school and having that connection and just finding bands through compilation discs and all these things and having mixtapes that are just ugly and gross with Creed and
So what signifies success for you guys? What does it mean to you?
Oh, success.
That's a deep question that I didn't know I was going to throw out there, but what the hell?
We were kind of talking about that the other day, too, and we're kind of already doing it because we're writing our own music. We're playing music our own way. The places that we want to play, though, could be the dream. We're looking for the gritty places that we've watched other bands in that we, idolized and like all those things. So that's my take on it.
Well, we're in a unique spot in our lives individually, I think, we all agree that we're not doing this for
we don't need to do it.
We don't have to do this.
Right.
We're not the struggling like road hogs, we're
Yep.
we're not trying to make a living playing music necessarily. It's just more of a therapeutic thing that we want to do. We want to make music and play these cool places, which we're doing.
Yeah. We are.
But we're also dads and husbands and have jobs.
Right.
So it's like, success is getting to play this venue that we've always wanted to play, and that's it.
Right.
It's not selling a million records. It's not doing this and that.
I don't think we'll ever see monetary success.
No.
I'm totally fine with
Well, God, you guys, you are, all three of you are pretty damn fascinating, and just, how your backgrounds, I'm blown away by the backgrounds. Because there's a lot of religion in your backgrounds.
That might be why we're so angry.
I was just about to say that. It can make you angry. Oh God, can it make you angry? But I'm in the music you guys make and the sound that you have is so unique for this area too. And that's why I want people who might not be super familiar with you guys, or who might not think, well, I don't know if that's for me. You don't know until you see you guys play. And even if the sound isn't right, it's not always about that.
Right.
It's you guys, I can tell, all work well together. You all are basically on the same page of what you're doing.
Right.
And excuse me, for somebody like me, that's a bigger draw than the music you're going to be making. Because I want to see three guys up there that are giving it 180% and having a fucking blast.
Right.
I don't care what you're playing. I just want that's fun for me, and that's worth a ticket.
Oh yeah, totally. And we pride ourselves on our live show. Our new album coming out will hopefully be able to portray that energy, because that's our main goal in recording, is like, how can we make this to where it sounds good on an album, but also, relates to how we sound live. We don't add a lot to our songs on the record, because we want it to be able to translate really, really well to our live show. And hopefully our live show is a little bit more of a ruckus.
I would love to, one venue I think I'd love to see you guys play in, and I don't know why it popped into my head. You're familiar with First Avenue in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
God, you guys would be great there.
We tried.
I know.
Oh,
we've
said
talked
yes
to them.
and then
Have
said,
you really?
No, not now.
It's hard.
No.
So we've tried. That's the issue. Like you said, it's different for the area. So it's
Sure. Because this is a country
Right.
rock.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
Right.
it's
Right.
easy to book things here, but our fan base and the people that are going to be interested in that music is not going to grow here.
you're right.
So we're looking, we've gone to Denver a few times. We're looking at Minneapolis and trying to like go out to places that will appreciate that style and have more people that are into that a little more. So,
Right.
but the issue is hitting up some of these bigger venues, which we've done. We've talked to First Ave.
Right.
They're like, okay, who do you know? Like, who can you play with in Minneapolis? We're like, well,
Yeah, we
nobody.
gotta
hold on
make
a
literally
some
nobody.
friends. Yeah, that's
So-
Look, we don't need anybody first to have starters.
So that's kind of the wall we hit, and it's that's what we're working through now. So
Well, if you guys ever get there, I will be there for that show because holy
Yeah.
shit, you guys would
That's
be fun
one
at
of
that
the
venue.
dream venues.
Well, you guys, again, this has been awesome. This has probably been one of the favorite ones I've done because you guys, your personalities, your backgrounds, and just a different sound for this area. Again, my entire background is country music, but at the same time, I just love this because it's so damn refreshing. For
Yeah.
for
It's interesting.
for Western South Dakota. So it's the Dead Marthas. You guys are on Spotify. You can get
Yep,
your music
right.
anywhere there. And your shows. You guys have a good social media presence too. So if you're looking to find you guys anywhere, just look for the Dead Marthas. You'll find them. You'll find the new song is out called Sharks.
Yeah.
That you can get anywhere too, and I highly recommend listening to it over and over. Still, Gold Prius is still my I don't know why, but God, that song. Just because I know the story
rowdy.
behind it, and I would recommend anybody listen to that one. Although it's gut wrenching for Russ,
Yeah. Let's just keep singing that over and over and over again.
it's the
Lesson
one you gotta
learned.
hear.
Please take joy from his pain.
Yeah,
We all
please.
do.
I don't mind helping others.
It's Trevor Stein, Scott Miller, and Russ Haddon. Thank you guys very much for being on the show with me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
you.
Houston.
And now, the brand new single from the Dead Marthas. This is Sharks.
I've seen through your shallow eyes. You and I both know you wish I didn't exist. I'm sorry I am bitter, but I don't have anything left to give. We didn't ask for too much, just a small chance to help the ones who we love. No matter what we say or do, it's never true. Hearts are cold, and that's the risk. Just like the ones we love. Sounds like screaming. Blood in the water, lying over fire. Blood in the water, lying over fire. You've seen 1,000 lives just like this, and I've chosen